Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today we're going to do a full length, or at least the beginning, of a landscape painting. I have my paper taped down from a 9 by 12 to probably about I got a ruler right here. Let's see, about 10 and a half by 6. So, yeah. Today's Sunday, and on Friday I had a minor surgery, so I'm still a little kind of loopy from that, but I wanted to film for y'all. So that being said, let's get into it. I'm kind of referencing a photo that I took, not the most glamorous photo, but just a mass of trees right in this area. So that being said, I want to grab a red. And I think I'm going to go with, let's go with Quin Gold, or this is New Gold by Da Vinci. And I'm going to start in the general center of the paper with that. I'm going to transition in a moment to the Naples yellow. The Naples yellow is a yellow with a little bit of red in it. And let's just kind of get this on the land area. I'm going to transition to, I'm not really quite sure what the color is in this picture. It's a little purpley, so Prussian blue wouldn't be the way to go, but I want to see what Prussian blue would look like. I think that might actually work for this one. Okay. And just in case I want to put any water in the painting, I'm going to do that down below. I was thinking about starting this one off with a Hake brush, but I haven't quite had the energy for that experiment yet. Just because for the past 6 months it's been these smaller explorations that I'm just not ready for that transition to go back and combine everything that I've been doing. So let's see, I'm gonna have a distant tree line about here. I don't have any paint on this brush yet, but I just grab Van Dyke Brown and use it as a place marker to get an idea. If I bring that there, then group of trees here. Horizon, distant tree tops. Bring a group of trees here and bring that up in that area. And then play around with the field. Okay, kind of have an idea what I want to do. I'm gonna grab, let's see, I'm gonna try to keep it to more basic colors right now. Let's go ultramarine blue, and I believe this is Venetian red. I've been using a big dried palette and experimenting with a lot of different colors and kind of getting ideas what I want to use overall for different scenes. That being said, setting up the palette with a lot of different paints and then seeing which ones are getting used up quicker gives me an idea of what I ultimately want to do for a new palette. This is kind of a classic mix for a purple. It works for a distant purple. So once again, that's ultramarine blue and Venetian red. You can use light red oxide, terracotta, and yeah, those are some different ones you might have on your palette. It does have some shadows taking place here. We do have some greens in this field. Let me wash this brush. This is Rubens, Paul Rubens. I got it off of Amazon a few years ago. Probably got it for about $20, but with the way things are costing now, it's probably like $25. here is, I believe it's green gold, Winsor Newton. I'll wash that in. Grass. I'm gonna grab transparent orange. This is Winsor Newton. That foreground. I'll come back to that more later on. Now would be a fun time to start getting this tree grouping in place. I've been experimenting with different earth colors for the initial laydown. One of the things I've been doing, and this is not an earth color, but the Hansa yellow. I'll grab something like that and use that to kind of start placing my shapes and my trees and branches, and then passing over that with a darker color to, try to get a glowing effect. So that's been another one of the ideas that I've been just playing around with a lot. Then one of the golds, like a queen gold, I believe that's at least one earth color mixed with maybe a yellow. Apparently, and before I started painting, queen gold, the original, was very, very popular, but it stopped being produced, and people who were very much into painting at the time, watercolor, bought up all that leftover stock. If I remember correctly, the automotive industry plays a part in what's available pigment-wise, because they're mass producing pigments on the larger scale for vehicles, and then those pigments being out there then are opened up to the paint makers. All right, this area here is going to be all in shadow. There are shadows that pass across the scene. Let's just, for the fun of it, grab a purple and use that to kind of experiment, just to play it against that yellow. Might not be the way to go, but part of this is just kind of demoing some of the experiments and ideas that are going on in my head. It sounds like hammy. Just blending it, moving around. It'll make mud, but I like mud in the paintings. I like the more toneless, mellow, muted effects. Anyway, so just kind of leave that be. For the dark, I've been relying very heavily on Perylene green. In previous videos, I think I misquoted it as PBK 33. I think it's PBK 31. It's just a black pigment, but it's green. And it just gives a really nice dark green. I've been playing a lot with different greens, honestly. Just playing back and forth and seeing what's happening with them. If I take something like alizarin crimson, and now I'm just kind of using way too many colors probably, we can push it and modulate it back and forth to get just different types of darks in there. Let me open the door and let Hammy in. He hasn't come in yet. He was laying on his side all wide-eyed with both his paws near the door opening. I think it was just more what's on the other side of the door than wanting to be in here. Anyway, so this has been another big experiment, the Perylene green with the alizarin crimson. The alizarin crimson I've been using is the Daniel Smith permanent one. For some reason they have, I think, the original, which is not light fast in any way, shape, or form, but maybe people that scan their works and make digital copies immediately are more enjoying it for that purpose as opposed to the original copy. Anyway, so a few other things to kind of blab about while I'm doing this. I've been playing with the round brushes, with the amount of quantity that they can lay down. I am on hot press paper, but I am still able to get some dry brush effects. So there are a decent amount of things that are working in my favor in these experiments, and then some things that I'm starting to delve into more and more. With kind of color stuff, when I had first started out, one of the big people that I watched was Rick Sukowitz. He has a huge channel, a huge presence on YouTube, a lot of information. And his darks would modulate back and forth between ultramarine and burnt sienna. Like those were kind of two things that he really had in a lot of his videos and a lot of his tutorials. And that's a great way to create darks and to just go back and forth and create warm and cool. Another mixture that works for that is ultramarine blue and Venetian red, or kind of like those earth reds, maybe Indian red, which I saw on some of the paintings by Eric Kopel. So I've been playing around with that, using those combinations, like the red and the blue in the shadows to create those darks. I'm almost wondering if the green and red creation of darks is kind of newer to the past like 100 years or so. So I don't really know too much of the green pigments, and I don't really have any too traditional green pigments, but they had stuff like the Terra Verte, which I think translates to green earth, and chromium oxide green, but I'm not sure if they were mixing them for darks with the reds. Anyway, just kind of got the idea in place. You can see where it's still wet here, it dried out quicker there. So a little bit of issues with inconsistent drying across the board with this approach that I'm using. I'm sure wetting the whole paper beforehand would have been beneficial. Here's just another push with the experimentation. Here's the Van Dyke brown. It's the Da Vinci one, and honestly I would say that it's less brown than, or maybe like a dark chocolate brown, as opposed to the Van Dyke browns that I have in other brands, where they kind of look more like the brown ochre goethite or something like that. Well, this one has just a darker feel to it, but it does dry lighter. And with these mixtures and experiments, here's a small round. This one is, I've already worn off the name, but I think it's the Simi Art, which is on Temu. And then there's one that almost seems exactly like it for sale at Hobby Lobby. I think at the end of the day, a lot of the budget brand stuff is all the same thing. Okay, so this is the Naples Yellow. I'm going to be pushing this field back and forth and seeing what I want from it. And guess we might as well stick with the green and alizarin crimson combination for the darks. Kind of wanted to have what would be probably more common on your palette for this one, but like I said, I'm still not fully recovered in all there, so I guess just let me do my thing for this one. Okay. This paper is the New York Central paper. I got it off of Jerry's Artorama. When I looked them up, I think New York Central was a place in New York that sold these supplies, and I think Jerry's Artorama bought them out. So I'm not sure who makes the paper, but I do have Meaden Art Supply sending me some more pads. And if you ever order anything from the Meaden Art, just use my name, Andrew, and you get 10% off. So I know I'm advertising or a different surface in this video than what I'm using, but I'm pretty sure they're probably the same factory that made them. Haven't been scraping too much with the card. Been using the back of the brush to get those ideas there. I've been experimenting a lot with texture, but trying to not really show the brush in the texture. I'll try to explain what I mean with that. Let me get some sort of dark, and I guess I'll keep the pattern going with the. This is the Perylene green. With fan brushes, I really don't like when I put them straight like that because it has that mound curve to them. And if this was dry, you'd be like, that was definitely a fan brush that was used there. So I've been trying to just use about 1/3 of it and trying to hide what brush is being used. I've been looking at a lot of the Victorian watercolors, and I've started calling my experiments the Victorian watercolor experiments. I've also been looking a lot at the Hudson River Valley movement, which has always been a big influence on me, and I almost kind of get the feeling that I could potentially start getting some of those vibes in watercolor. And with those, with Thomas Cole starting things off, there was a lot of brush strokes, but then after that, it seemed like a lot of brush strokes were getting hidden by the other artists, and it seemed like that movement was the Luminist movement, which sometimes the Luminism and the tonalism almost kind of go in hand because they both have a feel and a vibe to them that are unique and around the same time period. So I've been looking at a lot of luminous stuff, still some tonalist stuff, of course, and Victorian, where they're fully processed watercolor paintings. I've been using the razor blade a lot. Well, not so much, but I used it a lot on the last one. And I think we could probably just do a dry off and experiment with that for a moment and see some ideas and the potential there. So let me do a dry off real quick. All right, so actually within my books on the Victorian watercolors, they actually called scraping out one of the mediums, or essentially like a descriptive property of some of the paintings. So the book would say watercolor / body color / scratching out if it took place. I'm not sure what the old masters used. I'm sure it was just knives and razors and sharp edges. If you do use it, just be careful. I do find it works a lot easier whenever it's dry. So get the painting dry and see what's happening. I'm also seeing it from the standpoint of almost like it's a negative painting process, where we have the greens there for the tree leaves, or kind of groups of leaves, and then we can pull out the sky around it. In fact, if we went in with some tree trunks and scraped around that, that would probably be even more beneficial. And plus, I don't think you want to watch me just use the razor blade nonstop. So here's another brush to introduce. This one, when I was doing the Chinese brush painting, I believe it's called like a whisker brush, a mouse whisker brush. It's not, to my knowledge, it's not made from mouse whiskers, but was used for the purpose of that. I'm gonna get some sort of dark on here. Let's see. So I can show you the different brush strokes that this works with. In fact, I'm surprised that this brush never showed up in the Ron Ranson paintings or usage, because of how much more expressive it is compared to a #1 rigger. Do I have a scratch piece of paper I can show you? Here's the back of a painting real quick. If I go here, I can get a lot of different expressive marks. It holds a lot more than a #1. So, a lot of potential there. They have them for sale on Amazon. If you look up Chinese brushes, it'll probably be one of the ones that show up. I had it prior to my watercolor supplies, and I got those from Blue Heron Arts. And I know I did get some from from Amazon, sorry. But this latest pack of 3 I got for $2 off of Temu. So I'm still not settled with a lot of the different colors that I want to use. I don't really want to use the greens and the reds for the tree trunks. I've been looking back and forth between burnt umber, raw umber, as well as the Van Dyke. And you can get a lot going on with it. It goes a really long way when you have a good quantity of water. And you can probably see right there. Let's see how much we can get in with one. That's one thing I kind of rush through, is the small branches, mainly for time purposes, because I'm really not sure how to do a painting, but then in the middle of the video being like, let's fast forward this part. So I probably need to work on the video editing skills. But if you like what you see and you want to help support this channel, I do have the Patreon link down below. I take all of that money and I put it back into supplies and different paints and things like that, and try to produce a lot of free videos for YouTube. And of course, you're always welcome to follow along with anything that I do, and you have my express permission to sign anything you do when you follow along, and to sell anything whenever you follow along. I want you guys to have fun and have money for art supplies. And honestly, there's no need to feel self-conscious about that if you follow along and sell it, because you're going to develop your own style with practice. It's gonna happen regardless. So hopefully this helps you get to that point. I do have pure black on the palette, and this one is Lunar Black. And having the different tonalities for the different branches helps get a little bit more depth in there. I've also been trying to do something that I've seen in the Hudson River Valley painters. I'm not sure if they use a super soaked oil brush for a thin line and then it's spread out, or if they put it in and then they scrape right down the middle like that, but down the tree trunk. So that's something I've been also exploring. So just a lot of different things. I'm putting in just black right now just to speed it up. I think that I will go over it with the green and the red in a moment, just to put a little bit more life in there. And as you can see, I don't baby my brushes. Okay. I'm gonna grab the Hansa yellow, put it along this edge of this guy, so he pops out in front of that. Then here's Hansa yellow light. Let's get him along that further back. All right, so I don't want to spend too much time in one spot. I have been using the back of the brush handles just to create added texture, just to break up monotony. We'll do more on that in a moment. Let's see. Here's the Quin Gold. That might be too much Quin Gold. So, as you can see, it has that stereotypical fan brush mark. But the goal is to have those fan brush hidden. Been a big fan of darkening my corners like usual. I had thought about this, and let me know what you think. If painting in this fashion, right, paint it to a certain point where it's like all done, quote unquote, pull off the tape and then paint further on the inside, so that there's a step where it's not complete around the edges, but it has that natural blur that would happen due to the way the eye reads things. And then from there, more seriousness and interest within where we can look and focus our eyes. I have found with like little kind of bits of water that a little bit of grass texture on either side helps with that. In fact, let's see if we can kind of scrub something out for a little bit of water. This is 140-pound paper. Let's just use that to get started for right now. All right, pause the camera and dry off. I think for brevity's sake, I'm going to stop this one here and I'm going to start filming a part 2 of this one. Also, so I don't feel like I have to rush, because we're already 30 minutes into this one. So I'm going to do that. I'll either have a link down below or you'll be able to find it on the YouTube. All right, I will be back.